Welcome to TRS Clips, India's fastest learning portal. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell icon.
That's true. I think they don't think like creators, and even brands per se, I feel like they need to start thinking like creators themselves, because that's the big shift that's happened, right? A lot of individual creators popping up. Just the fact that Joe Rogan's like bigger than CNN's, Fox's of the world is the fact that people are like getting drawn towards individual voices a lot more.
It also hurts me that, are you following everything that's happening with Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
So he's kind of got a bad brand image in the last 6 months. But the last 6 months is where I've been following him very closely. I've been listening to almost all his episodes, at least the first hour of all his episodes. What he's trying to do is, one second, the first base context is that both of us are vaccinated completely.
Yeah.
So we're not anti-vaxxers. But the reason I'm bringing up Joe Rogan is he's been questioning the concept of vaccination, but he's just been questioning it.
Yeah.
He's talking to epidemiologists, he's talking to virologists, he's talking to people from the pharma industry, formerly from pharma. He's trying to analyze it from all angles.
Yeah.
But because he's trying to analyze it, again, the polar nature of the internet is kind of bracketing him as someone who's anti-vaccination.
Yeah.
He's not anti-vaccination, he's just questioning it. So now in rooms where I bring up the fact that I'm trying to do something like what Joe Rogan did in America, everyone's reaction is the same. He used to be great, now he's gone a little crazy. Now, and the other angle is that he also, his political ideologies are not right-wing, but they're anti-left-wing.
Yeah.
So they bracket him.
He's almost centrist if you look at it, right? Which is a
Which
I think the category has disappeared everywhere
I
in the
think
world.
people hate that term, or at least like both the extreme sides of the right and left wing hate the term center. How can you be neutral? Or how can you have like a balanced opinion on things?
Combined with the fact that he has taken away their audiences, he's taken away the news channels' audiences. I feel like news channels are doing a lot of negative narratives about him and creating these narratives in the public's eyes.
Yeah.
So you have a section of people who actually listen to his podcast regularly and know what he's about. And almost all the rest of humanity, which is controlled by international news portals, they're thinking very negatively about him.
I think also the problem is I think that there are two problems to this, right? One is the fact that that's the problem with short form content. It's once you take a nuanced, longer conversation, you break it into smaller pieces, you're only seeing that piece, and that's what the piece that's getting shared online. You're not seeing the entire 2-hour conversation. So sometimes you miss the nuance if you put it into like a minute. And I feel for me, I think that long form will always be around because you can only get nuance with long form.
I asked a a very young Gen Z kid, 15, 16 years old, intelligent guy, Aryan Sharma, who we discovered off of Twitter. So he's a whiz kid and all. And I asked him and his friends that how do you guys look at short form?
Yeah.
He's like, everyone watches short form, but there's a lot of kids who, as they're growing up, they're discovering long form content, which is podcasts, which is even infotainment 10, 11-minute videos. And they're looking at it as a sort of aspirational level up. As in a 10th standard kid, when he starts watching podcasts and long form, he goes and tells an 8th standard kid that, oh, you just watch this. By the way, this is what I watch, man. It's like the equivalent of us being in school and that one nerdy kid who says, no, I only watch the news. Like I knew a guy like that.
The long form, the good part is that you are not rushing yourself to hit a time. You are saying it doesn't matter how long this takes. I'm just getting it right, and I think that especially in like conversations, right? It's so good to kind of leave it open to saying let this take as much time as it needs, rather than saying let it fit into 60 seconds. The other thing with Joe Rogan, I feel what happens is, so he does what a lot of hosts do, right? Sometimes you'll find something which you know you can amp up a little bit because it will create that one.
Clickbait.
It's clickbait, right? So you'll do that. But
So,
I think in America, especially,
what do you think of the NoFap movement, Mr. I'm kidding.
I still don't understand it. I still don't understand it.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Go on. The host brings up a
Yeah, so
point.
you have that clickbaity point. You know, it's going to be something which people will kind of resonate towards. And he does that. Does he do it sometimes when he shouldn't do it? Yes, but I think all hosts fall into that trap. You fall into that trap.
It's all about views and clicks, guys, at the end of the day.
I think the tricky part is how do you make sure the guest you bring in is not saying something that's not true, especially when it's scientific.
Right.
It's a tricky one. Politics and science, I feel, are the two trickiest ones to deal with, and religion.
Do you think he vets that consciously? Because he does bring a lot of extremists, in a sense.
Yeah.
But I feel he also brings on experts.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
It's a good mixture. It's a good mixture to be, but he's also giving everybody a voice. If you look at it, he's got a Bernie Sanders on as well. He's had like, Elon Musk in, exactly.
So when COVID had started to break out in January of 2020, he brought on an epidemiologist. I forgot that guy's name. And that guy said a lot of things that actually ended up happening in 2 years. And it was against what WHO had said at that time. So I was going around telling my family this, they're full of like doctors. I told some of the teammates this. And a lot of people said, no, but the WHO said this and I'd rather listen to the WHO.
Yeah.
But actually what the epidemiologist said, a lot of it came true.
Yeah.
Epidemiologist, the guy who had come on, so that basically what does an epidemiologist do? They study viruses all the time and they they study the spread of epidemics. So they are the kind of subject experts for this. And I would trust that person rather than the news, rather than even the WHO. So I think that's the vibe Joe Rogan goes with. But I pitched this to Tanmay. I actually spoke to Tanmay about kind of bringing that Joe Rogan experience vibe, and I gave him this example that this is what I'd like to do. Because even in our country, you have news channels which are bought out by one side or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Like and
that's everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world you go, you're going to have. I think that's the problem with larger media organizations. You either on one side or the other.
Yeah, dude.
Which is why people kind of are looking for news online.
Yeah, absolutely.
But unfortunately, there also a lot of what you find is one side or the other.
Yeah.
Always.
So where do you find credible news? The only credible news, weirdly, which I find is business news, which I find to be okay.
Yeah.
There's no agenda. Like
There is agenda, but it's actually like, it's not like they're still trying to be safe.
When I asked Tanmay about bringing the JRE culture here, he said that Joe Rogan talks about a lot of politics and that's his driver for growth.
Yeah.
Which means that yes, he talks about science, he talks to Elon, he'll talk to Robert Downey Jr. But at the same time, his recurring theme is politics.
Yeah.
And here's a cute fact about America. In our history books, when we're in 10th grade or whatever, we learn maybe about the independence movement, maybe about medieval Indian history at the most.
Yeah.
In America, their history is divided into two sections, where one section is where they learn the past of America and one section is where they learn the present. And every American high school student is also taught the present. So it gives them a very kind of, it's the inlet into the world of news and politics. So most Americans kind of are very aware of what's happening in the country and they have a culture there of kind of projecting their thoughts. America is a very communication oriented culture.
Yeah.
And he said that that's why Joe Rogan works. Another reason why Joe Rogan works is because America has a lot of people who do household chores and drives. So there's more of a range for consumers.
Yeah.
And he pitched his doubts about bringing Joe Rogan culture here. And honestly, dude, even I don't know. Because he said that even if you stay non-aligned, but you go 51% right or 51% left, as in 1% right or
The
left.
problem is politics and religion in India, once you start talking about it and having an opinion about it, it's a sticky wicket to kind of get onto because there are so many points of view on everything, which is why I think a lot of people kind of stay away from it. Talk about everything else apart from these two topics as much. And I feel that might also be it.
That's where the views are.
That's where the views are, dude. That's like the kind of scaling thing for podcasts. And that's what kind of made me doubt that what Tanmay said actually made sense. I feel he's talking about one extreme where you absolutely can't do a Joe Rogan type situation in India, where you can't have a podcast which talks about the news, etc. I feel you can talk about some pieces of news.
Yeah.
So that's the new flavor that we're trying to bring here.
I think it's needed. I think at some point, till you open up conversations, you won't realize what works, what doesn't work, what people are really like vibing with and stuff. So I think it's very important to do.